All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. And today we are actually going to talk about something I am super excited about. We are going to talk all about the mindset of a marketer and what mindset work it takes to be super, super successful. Now, here's the thing, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because, in my opinion, when you become a business owner, you immediately become two things and remain two things for quite some time. Number one, you become a marketer. Number two, you become a salesperson. And it's really not until you bring on a massive team and are almost completely removed from the day-to-day processes that you are no longer those things. But like Alex Hormozi, Layla Hormozi, all the people who are super big and have massive businesses still have to create content, still have to show up and sell pretty much every day, if not every week. And they sell and market at a much higher volume than we do. So in my opinion, you're going to really have to settle in. You're going to really have to buckle down because there's never going to be a time in your business for probably years and years and years and years where you are not going to be a marketer or a salesperson. And so for that reason, it's incredibly important for you to master your mindset around marketing, around selling, because it is so different than any other mindset that you're going to have. So with that being said, there's a lot of lessons in terms of your mindset for marketing and selling that I have learned along the way. And I thought I would share those things with you. So let's get into it. All right. So number one is going to be consistency. Now, I will say that up until the last month, I have probably missed maybe 2 days of posting 3 TikToks every single day for about the last 3 years. And in this last month, I have had a lot going on personally and decided to basically give myself permission because we had other stuff going on TikTok that wasn't me doing like face to camera. We still had content going out. We still had podcast clips, trends, B-roll, things like that. I gave myself permission to just take a small breather. But aside from that, I have probably been one of the most consistent people. And in fact, that's something that most people say to me when they know me is like, you are one of the most consistent people that we know. Like, how are you okay? Because at some point, like it's just force of habit. But what I want to talk about when it comes to consistency and the mindset you have to get into to be consistent is that you have to approach it with the perspective that the results will outweigh the process every single day. And here's the thing, you guys. That does not mean that you have to implement a process every day that you hate, like deeply hate and is unaligned and does not work for your schedule. Yes, you need to find something that works for your schedule. You need to find a process. You need to find a system. You need to find a production plan that works for your schedule that you can get behind. But there are still going to be days. I could give you literally the best production plan. I could give you the best systems, the best processes, the best timeline, like the best tips and tricks for how to edit and all this stuff to make it a faster process. And there are still going to be days where you don't want to do it. There are still going to be times when you're a business owner that life gets in the way, and guess what you still have to do? You still have to market and you still have to sell, because without that, you don't have a business. There have been many, many, many times as a business owner where when I first started my business, I was going through a divorce. I've gone through multiple breakups. I've gone through lots of different issues that I will share when the time is right that have been deeply hurtful and life altering. And yet I still showed up and no one had any freaking clue. And there needs to be, my word for this year has been balance. And I'm learning that there needs to be a balance. I'm learning that there needs to still be some vulnerability behind that. Like I can't just show up like everything is okay when it's not. But I also still have to show up. I also still have to put out content. And that doesn't mean that I'm the one that's posting the content or I'm the one that's editing the reels. But guess what I still have to do? It's a personal brand. So I still have to get in front of the camera every day. I still have to show up and sell. because I'm also responsible for a bunch of different salaries of women on my team who have families and children and people who they're looking to support. And if I don't show up, guess who gets impacted? I would get impacted first. Like, there have been times where, you know, in the first couple of years of my business, when I brought on team members, where like I would not pay myself, obviously I would pay them first. I would pay the business first. But with that being said, eventually, if I don't show up and sell and our sales completely tank and there are no sales, I'm not going to make payroll. And so every day I remind myself that the results will outweigh the process every single time. I also remind myself of the people who I am getting up for every day, of the people who I'm creating content for every day. There are very real people in our audience that tell me that they consistently listen to our podcast or watch our content, who have been able to create massive amounts of sales literally just from our free information. There are very real people who are struggling in their business. There are very real people who are struggling to create content, to sell, to understand how to do those things. And me showing up enables them to have a more successful business. And so for me, I think through, if I don't do this, what is the impact? What am I giving up? At what cost, right? That's the question I've been asking myself a lot this year, is like, if I do this or if I don't do this, what will be the cost of this decision? And am I okay with that? And in this instance, I'm not okay. I'm not okay if I don't show up and I don't create results because of who it impacts other than just myself. If it was just me, I'd be like, that's fine. But you know what? I am responsible for a lot of people who I deeply love and care for. And so I'm not just going to throw caution to the wind and be like, whatever, I'm just not going to show up. That's like such a selfish act. And I think that as a business owner, whether we like to agree with this or not, or admit to this or not, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur means being very selfless at times. I was listening to a leadership podcast this morning, and it was talking about all the different things as a leader that you should be focusing on. And not one of them was like naming myself, was naming the leader, other than you need to get better at doing XYZ for your team, for your clients, for the people around you. It's always for other people. And the quicker I think that you recognize that, the faster you'll be able to get that, like, behind the process itself. I always talk about this process kind of like the gym, right? If your goal, like this year, for example, in the last couple of months, I've really decided to put an emphasis on like bettering myself physically, just because I feel my best. I feel my most mentally clear when I am consistently working out, when I have an outlet for stress, when I feel like I'm challenging myself mentally and physically. And so I am doing spin, I am doing Pilates, and I got a personal trainer as well for like a bunch of strength training. I'm doing like saunas and ice baths and all of these things. But there are days where I wake up and I'm like, should I cancel my spin class? I don't know. My mother, bless her heart, it kills me. She has an alarm on her phone that literally goes off every day. And she's like, cancel Pilates class, ? And that's just how I feel in my brain. I'm like, do I cancel my class? I don't know. And my answer is no every time, because whether or not I like to admit it, I love how I feel after I work out. I love like the dopamine hit that I get when I make a promise to myself and I follow through, and I prove to myself that I can trust myself. I prove to myself that I actually can do it. And so for me, I have gotten to this place where I've recognized that there are going to be times where I don't feel like doing XYZ, working out, showing up, creating content, selling, doing meetings, any of those things. But is the end result something worth me working towards? Is it of value to me? And if the answer is yes, I don't care how hard the process is, I'm still going to do it. And I'm still going to show up, and I'm still going to give my best. For example, sitting down and filming this podcast today, I had a bunch of crazy client meetings earlier this week. Tomorrow I have a bunch of stuff going on. Friday I have another crazy client meeting, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but it's been a very busy day. And the last thing that I wanted to do was sit down and film podcast episodes for 4 hours, because it takes a lot of brain power and I get tired and I have to stop and take a nap or eat a snack or things like that. But guess what? I posted this morning on my Instagram story that season 2 of our podcast is coming back. And want to know how many people messaged me and was like, I cannot wait. Like, I binge your podcast. It's been so helpful for me. Dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And just that alone for me is like, okay, I just need to freaking pull up my big girl panties, because sometimes it's not fun, but it's so worth it. And this kind of leads me into the next thing that I wanted to say, which is when you start doing the thing that you are dreading the most, within 2 minutes, it gets easier. So this goes for working out, this goes for therapy, this goes for affirmations, meditation, this goes for creating content, doing sales, going live, any of those things. We create this like massive hurdle in our heads that's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. It's going to take so long. I don't want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you start doing it. And within 2 minutes, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. I don't know why I was like bitching and moaning about it before. So anytime that you guys know how important it is to show up consistently and sell or market your business, I want you to remember the fact that number one, the result is so worth the difficult process. And number two, I also want you to remember that the second you actually start doing it, it's going to get a hell of a lot easier. So just start. One of my spin instructors, it's so funny, like they always say such motivational things. I'm like, I need to remember that for content. And she always said that like, she goes, motivation is preceded by movement. And I was like, I love that. And that's also why she became my personal trainer. Shout out Peach. She's gotten a shout out in like 2 episodes. I was like, she's such a great motivator. I love it. This is what I need. But motivation is preceded by movement. And that is exactly the same in really, truly any situation in life. You get the motivation by doing the thing. You don't get motivation and then do the thing. So every time you're like, I'm looking for motivation, you're not going to find motivation before you do the thing. You do the thing and the motivation comes for you to continue doing it. So at some point you have to convince your brain. I always call this the 3-2-1 rule. I learned this years and years ago, but you literally just have to convince your brain to do the thing. So for example, if you are going to go live, turn your screen on live on Instagram, get ready, and then literally count down in your head, 3, 2, 1, go. Press the button, go live, do the thing. And tell me in 2 minutes that it did not get easier, that you did not get over your fears. You're going to feel scared. You're not going to feel like you want to do it. If you are writing content, coming up with content ideas, working out, any of those things, literally just count down from 3. But you actually have to do it when you get to 0. 3, 2, 1, go. You have to do it. But I promise you, it is going to make things so much easier for you. So that's kind of my rule in terms of like motivation and consistency. This kind of goes into the next question that I got a lot when it came to mindset with marketing and sales is, how do you stay inspired? And in my opinion, there's 2 reasons why you're feeling uninspired about your content. Number one, your audience either isn't talking to you or you're not listening to them. Remember that marketing and sales is a conversation, not a monologue. You guys, I'm going to say that again. Marketing and sales is not a monologue. It is a conversation. And so oftentimes what I will find is that business owners, when they are feeling uninspired, I'll have people come to me and be like, I have no idea what to talk about in content. I'm like, okay, great. When was the last time you looked at your marketing and sales data? When was the last time you looked at the comments in your posts? When was the last time you looked at your DMs and took note of what people were asking you or questions or what they were talking about or what they were struggling with? They're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you talked about. The more your audience talks back to you, the more you have to talk about. The other thing that I will also say that I have noticed in any area of life, this is not just with marketing, if you are not personally developing yourself, if you are not learning new things, coming up with new ideas every single day, meaning like consuming new ideas, if you're not reading, listening to podcasts, surrounding yourself with people who have conversations that are above your pay grade, that are higher level than what you are used to, you are going to have nothing to talk about. For example, I've used this before in my content a couple months ago. I actually said this exact same thing. I was like, I feel so bored with my content. I have no idea what I should be talking about, but guess why that was? I was sitting behind my desk for hours and hours every single day, having meetings with people, not looking at any of my content, not listening to podcasts, not doing what I should have been doing for personal development, So I literally put my walking shoes on, put my headphones in. I listened to a podcast episode that was 1 hour long. And by the end of my 1 hour walk, I had 30 content ideas, you guys. 30. All you need to do to feel inspired is to inspire yourself, is to personally develop yourself, is to listen to your audience. There should never be a time where you don't know what to talk about if you're marketing correctly, if you're listening to your audience, if you're developing yourself. And this goes for any other area of life. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but it's like, for example, people who, you've been friends with since high school, if they've done nothing else in their life, all they want to talk about is high school. And you're like, well, I don't really want to talk about that. I personally hated high school. I had I didn't have a terrible experience. I just really didn't love it. It was definitely not my peak. It was not my favorite. I dealt with a lot of issues, but I've run into people, in the last couple of years where all they want to do is talk about high school. And I'm like, no, I want to talk about what I'm doing right now. I want to talk about where I've been, what I'm doing, where I'm going. I have such exciting things to talk about and to share that I'm doing right now. But those who are not developing themselves, those who are not doing anything, don't have anything else to talk about. So if you're feeling uninspired, listen to your audience. And if you're feeling uninspired, personally develop yourself, challenge yourself. You will learn things to talk about every single day. Okay, another question we keep getting is the mindset between being consistent versus inspired. So a lot of people have said, that's great, but you have to be consistent even when you aren't inspired. How do you do this? I don't know if you can hear this, but my dogs are snoring so loud. So hopefully you guys can't hear this right now. Okay. So like I said, the question that we get a lot is, how do you stay consistent when you're feeling uninspired? So this is the thing, you guys, is that there needs to be an element of self-awareness in the work that you do. Part of marketing is getting yourself inspired. Part of marketing is preparing yourself to market, is coming up with content ideas. And if you're feeling uninspired, like I said before, you're not doing the things that you need to be doing to properly market. So there have been times where I have felt uninspired, but you have to combine kind of the two things we've been talking about is, number one, recognize that you have to be consistent. The process is going to suck, but the result is worth it. And you're never going to constantly feel motivated, just like you're never going to constantly feel inspired. So it's this game of like, how do I constantly motivate myself and how do I constantly inspire myself to talk about different things? So if you are feeling uninspired, recognize that, know that it's okay. Like, give yourself grace in that. We are not content. We're not ChatGPT. We cannot like spit out content ideas 24/7. It just doesn't work like that. If you're a creative person, there are like artists or sculptors or poets or writers who they understand that creativity comes and goes in waves. But you also, if you're doing it professionally, understand that sometimes you have deadlines, sometimes you have days that you need to get shit done. So my recommendation to people is learn how to force yourself to be creative. Learn how to get really good at being creative. So for me, if I'm feeling uninspired or I'm not feeling creative at all, number one, I get outside. Go outside, touch some grass, go on a walk, breathe some fresh air, get away from your computer, get away from doing the work, okay? Oftentimes, and I heard somebody say this, the most successful business owners are those that prioritize silence and wait for the ideas to come. And I was like, wow, that's really good. So if you are feeling uninspired, get outside, move your body, listen to something that's going to inspire you, like a podcast episode, read a book, have a conversation, do things that are fun for you, because that's going to be the thing that inspires you. You get inspired by the world around you. Your life experiences inspire you. The things that you consume inspire you. I'm not talking about marketing and sales all day. I'm talking about my life experiences, things I've read, listened to, songs I've heard, different things that I'm like watching on TV, podcasts that I've heard, things like that. I'm not talking about marketing and sales. I'm talking about all of these different examples. I made a piece of content about a conversation I had with my freaking grandmother, and it was a great piece of content. And yes, it was about marketing and sales, but it was a totally different example. So if you're feeling uninspired, recognize that's going to happen. But you have to force yourself to be creative sometimes. You have to force yourself to be inspired. Sometimes, honestly, for me, like having a glass of wine, I get so inspired by that. I don't know why, probably because my walls come down. Dancing, that to me makes me feel like so inspired. going out and doing something, watching a sunset, like all of those things make me feel really inspired. And so when I recognize I'm feeling uninspired, I force myself to go do those things and I come back and I feel inspired. All right. So another question that we get asked a lot is like, how do I deal with doing all the right things, but not getting a response from my audience? So there's a couple of things that I always say is that number one, if you feel like you're doing all the right things, but your audience is not responding, remove the emotion from it. There's oftentimes a mistake that I see a lot of business owners make, which is they feel like because they're putting all of this work in, they deserve results. And so therefore there's a lot of emotion tied to that. When in reality, marketing and sales literally just needs to be trial and error. Every single thing that happens, I had Ken Delaney on the podcast months and months ago, and I loved what she said one time, and that was that everything that happens to you is literally just data. Literally just data. It's just giving you more information to make decisions with. So I think for me, when I think about, all of these different business owners who come to me and say, I don't know why things aren't working. I'm trying all of the things. I'm really frustrated. It's okay that you're frustrated, but what is that going to do for you? Truthfully, like what is this frustration going to do for you? Maybe it adds fuel to your fire and that you're like, no, screw it. I need to figure this out. But ultimately, like everything is figure outable. You are going to figure it out. You're a very smart individual. Otherwise you wouldn't be a business owner. So recognize like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. Even though I am doing all the right things, that's okay that I'm not seeing results. Maybe there's a piece of this missing. I always say there's 4 things that you need to see results when you are marketing and selling. There is strategy, consistency, production, and energy. So ask yourself, do I have all of those things and am I doing them well? Do I have a kick-ass strategy? If no, okay, right then and there, that's probably why you're not seeing results. If you're just posting content consistently, that's probably why you're not seeing results. You don't have any plan behind them. Do I have consistency? No. Okay. Even if you have a great strategy, but you're not implementing it consistently, you're not necessarily going to see great results. If you have consistency and strategy, but you don't have a good production plan, so you're not getting content out all the time, that right there's your issue. If you're not selling with the right energy, that's your issue right there too. So anytime you are looking to find a solution as a business owner, not anytime, there are times where you need emotion. Remove the emotion from it with marketing and sales. Remove the I don't want to say entitlement, but kind of entitlement. Like remove this feeling of I'm doing the thing. Why am I not seeing results? I'm owed results. You're not owed anything. Your audience doesn't have to buy from you. You have to get them to buy from you. That's your job as a business owner, as a marketing and salesperson. So instead, get curious, ask questions. Instead of saying, oh, I'm so frustrated. Why am I not seeing results? Okay, I've been doing things consistently. I thought I was doing everything right. What am I not doing? Why am I not seeing results? Get someone's perspective on it, right? The other thing I'll also say, because a lot of people are like, okay, well, if it's been a certain amount of time and I'm not seeing results, do I just keep doing what I'm doing or do I switch my strategy? So what I always say is that for the first 90 days, you should be making very small tweaks and refinements to your strategy based on how your audience is responding. So for example, if we're posting 3 TikToks a day and there's 2 content buckets, like educational content is dead and the old era of marketing is dead, and those 2 things are doing really, really well for us versus 10 other content buckets that we have, great, let's put more of that into our content because it's very clear that our audience really likes that. You should be making those little tiny refinements. But if in 90 days, you're not seeing massive progress, I don't even want to say results. Like if you're not seeing things on an upward swing, if you're not seeing engagement going up, profile views going up, link clicks going up, if you're not seeing inquiries going up, website traffic going up, sales going up, even if it's slight, that's where I would say, okay, let's look at, again, those 4 things. Let's look at our strategy. Is there anything we need to tweak here? Because clearly something's not working. I always make big strategy changes 90 days by 90 days. And I make small strategy refinements, I would say like week over week, month over month kind of thing. So another question I get asked a lot when it comes to marketing is like, how do how do you deal with trolls? Because that's a huge mindset shift in and of itself. I deal with them. Trust me, you guys. Go through my TikTok comments and you will see what I mean. But I guess my mindset around trolls is like, if you're putting yourself out on the internet, there are going to be people who have literally nothing better to do than to tear you down. And so I guess I kind of just have expected at this point. And the mindset that I've developed is that anything negative somebody has to say about me is a projection of themselves, because I'm very confident in myself and I'm very at peace with myself. And there's not going to be anything that they say that I have not heard before. So I guess for me, anytime I get like a troll in my comments, I just feel really bad for people. I'm like, that's really sad that like you almost have nothing better to do with your life than to like tear other people down on the internet behind like a faceless account. You know what I mean? So, if you go look at my page, you'll see the most common comments are like, you used daddy's money. That's one. You stole your ex-husband's money. That's another one. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not actually a CEO. You're not actually successful. You're lying to us. I have this memory. It was so funny. My last place that I lived was beautiful. It was right on the water. It was in a very expensive area of Orange County. And I was very grateful to live there because obviously my business had afforded me it. But it was like a 3-bedroom townhouse. I'm single. I don't need anything more than that. I've got my dogs and like, I'm good, right? And I have this memory, I was recording content like in my kitchen, which yeah, it was small, but again, right on the water, it's beautiful, all this different stuff. And someone commented and they were like, someone who owns a multi-million-dollar company wouldn't be filming in a kitchen like that. Like you probably live in this like tiny little 1-bedroom apartment, or even in my office, which is where I'm filming right now. People will look at like what's behind me, which is my bookshelves. And they're like, oh, you live in like a tiny little like 9x10 like room or whatever. Like, yeah, that really screams multi-million-dollar like CEO or whatever. And I don't know. Again, for me, I'm like, I don't need to justify myself. I'm like, I live in a beautiful home now. It's a 4-bedroom home. I don't really feel the need to brag about that on the internet. But I do brag about the success that I've created because I think that it's more so to show people what's possible for them, right? So I think I've developed this mindset of like, I actually feel really bad for you if you're a troll. And I just don't really let it impact me or affect me, again, because I'm so at peace with myself and with what I've created and who I am, that it's like, what are they going to tell me that I haven't heard already, right? And at that point, it's just like, can you come up with something better? Come up with something new. Like, please entertain me, right? So I think you have to accept that if you are going to put yourself out there on the internet, if you're going to be the face of a brand, if you're going to be a founder, if you're going to be a business owner, there are always going to be people on the internet who have something to say about you, who don't like you. I have looked, I don't have any Reddit threads created about me yet, thank God. Really hoping that, I don't get those, but I also feel like that's like your stamp of like, you made it if people are shit talking you on Reddit. So we'll see. But something else that I've also seen, I haven't gone through this myself. I haven't had anyone like make fun of my appearance, but oh my God, I simply died. One of I call her my friend, Ken Delaney. We had her on the podcast months and months ago. Anyone who knows Kenda's story, she's an incredibly talented and successful business owner. She also owns like a marketing and sales company. And she is a survivor of child like ocular cancer. So she had eye cancer when she was a kid. She talks about this openly. So she has a glass or like a prosthetic eye. And I will always remember somebody commented on one of her videos something like really mean about her eye. She was like, if you make another joke about my fake eye, I'm going to stab my real eye out with a fork, or like my one good eye out. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So like, you literally just have to laugh about it, you guys. Like, she's so secure in herself. There was also one girl who made a comment that was really, really mean about like not being able to speak to like childhood cancer, like not calling yourself a victim of childhood cancer because you were a child or something. And she actually like found the girl and like where she worked and stuff and was like, I don't think you would want your like management team knowing, because I think she was like on a school board or something. I was like, I don't think that you would want the school board knowing like where you live and that you're saying these things and all this different stuff. Like, she's fucking ruthless, and I love that about her. It's incredible. So it just goes to show, like, it doesn't really matter what people are saying about you. You have to approach it with love and with empathy, but you also have to stand up for yourself, and you also have to recognize that, like, people are just going to be shitty no matter what, honestly. And there's really no way around it, and it sucks because people are awful and people are shitty sometimes on the internet, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, kids. Let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, because this is a really fun topic. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of questions, and I'm just reading some questions off of my phone here. I've gotten some questions about if I find myself comparing myself to other people. So short answer, yes. Long answer, no. So my short answer is yes, because I don't do it on social media. Like, I don't consume people's content. I used to really struggle with comparing myself to other people. I used to really struggle. Like, I would see these incredibly successful female business owners and I would be like, why am I not there yet? And then I really recognized it's like, I'm going to get there in my own time, and I can just admire them and not compare myself to them and just appreciate my own journey. Something that I heard on a podcast was winners focus on winners, losers focus on other winners. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, copy. I will not be focusing on anyone else but me. And my number one rule is I don't look at what my competition is doing. I just don't. I don't need ideas. I don't need inspiration. I don't need to compare myself. I'm really, really self-aware that I will start to do that and get into a really bad habit. And so I just don't do it. So I did used to compare myself to other people quite a bit, but I don't do it anymore. So kind of in that same vein, like, how do you overcome imposter syndrome, right? So something that I learned from a really incredible friend of mine, her name's Erica Reitman. She used to be a consulting client of mine. She's absolutely incredible. She taught me this thing called the badass tracker, and she talked to my clients about this, and I absolutely love this concept. And it's essentially making like an entire list of all of the things that you have kicked ass at ever in your business, or just as a person in general. This can be landing a really massive client account. This can be creating a really incredible result for a client. This can be selling X many products. This can be, I was consistent for this many days doing XYZ. And every single Monday, you put time on your calendar to basically look through this badass tracker and remind yourself how good you really are. Because I think that as business owners, and I'm speaking from experience, we really struggle to like stop and smell the roses, right? For me, it's really hard. As soon as I accomplish something, I'm like, okay, great, what's next? But right now, and in this year, I'm really working on slowing down and appreciating the things I have done and appreciating the things that my team and I have done, and really recognizing like, wow, we do some really incredible work, and I need to remind myself of that more. I need to pat myself on the back a little bit more. Pat yourself on the back, girl. That's the audio that always reminds me of. So that badass list is so incredible for really overcoming imposter syndrome, because it takes your eyes off of everyone else and puts them back on you, on like all of the really cool things that you yourself have done. And I think that's the key, in my opinion. Other questions we got was like, what is something that you wish marketers talked about more often? I'm just going to expose everybody who's a marketer. You can be a really great marketer for other people and suck at doing it for yourself, or struggle to do it for yourself. That is normal. Do you know how many people I talk to on a day-to-day basis that are like, I can do this all day, every day for somebody. Why can't I do it for myself? That is so normal. And the reason is because you are so close to your own business that you can't see the forest through the trees. You are so close to it that you can't like zoom out and come up with all of these ideas without being tied to it emotionally like you can for your clients. So give yourself some grace for that. That's why it's so important to have somebody in your corner who helps you market and sell, even if you're a really good marketer. The other thing I wish that people talked about more is that you're your best client. If you are a marketer, I heard this from the CEO of the marketing agency I was working for before I started my business. And she always said, we are our best client. If we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't market ourselves before we market our clients, we're not going to be around to serve our clients. So something that a lot of marketers struggle with is that they will do all of their client work first and put their marketing on the back burner. But what happens in 6 months when you don't have more clients coming in and no one re-signs, or you have one client that re-signs and you can't stay afloat? And so then all of a sudden you're not able to help that client. You are your best client and your marketing and sales comes first. The other questions that we got were like my favorite things about marketing. Number one, I think my favorite thing is that by literally posting a few pieces of like silly content online on the internet every day, you can make millions of dollars in your business. Like you can be really, really successful. That's kind of wild. Like we've never lived in a day and age where success was easier to accomplish. That's really cool, in my opinion. And then the other thing I really love about it is that it really creates such an incredible community. And this is like kind of just more personal for me, but honestly, in the last couple of years, like I have really struggled to make friends, make time for making friends, have relationships. And there has never been a moment where I've felt alone. And it's really because of the community that I've created literally with my content. I talk to people all day, every day. And some of my deepest friendships are with people who I met literally online. So that's the really cool part about marketing as well, is it brings really amazing people your way. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is like how this mindset has impacted my business. All of these mindset shifts, I don't even know how to phrase this. All of these mindset shifts have enabled me to become, in my opinion, like the leader that I am today. I have become like the fullest version of myself because of these mindset shifts. And so I want you to know that all of the work that you are doing, it's going to come together. All of the hard work you're doing, all of the motivating yourself, becoming, more creative, all of this stuff, that's all going to come together one day. And it's going to feel easy, and you're going to feel creative constantly, and you're going to feel excited to show up and sell and market every day. It's a hard process getting there, but you're going to get there. I promise you, it is so freaking worth it. So if there's one thing I can impart to you, it's yes, make these shifts, but recognize that, kind of like what we talked about in the beginning, the result is 1,000% worth the process. So hopefully this was kind of a fun episode for you guys to listen to, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.